Welcome to Life by Design, episode 367.
Welcome to Life by Design. I'm your host, Dr. Kresimir Jug, and as you know by now, because you're hearing my voice, I am not joined today by Dr. Jamie Richards. It's just that time of the year when things get busy and there's a lot of scheduling conflicts. So it's going to be me on today's episode, as my mind is blanking. Together, though, we are creators of Life by Design with many locations worldwide. Each week we discuss the principles and the practice of Life by Design. And on today's podcast, it's going to be minding your waistline and your health this holiday season. And as I'm recording this, our brothers and sisters from down south, the beautiful United States of America, are set to celebrate Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving if you are an American. And you know what? Anywhere around the world, happy Thanksgiving. It's just nice to wish people well things, like kind things. I don't care what you celebrate. If you're telling something kind to me, I respect that. And I love Thanksgiving. It's actually my favorite holiday. I think I say this every year that I'm jealous of how wonderful it is in America. And I can't think of a better holiday, principle-wise, philosophically, than to celebrate being grateful and the things that you are grateful for. And we have a lot to be grateful for. And now with that being said, we are entering into the time of the year, the lyric has it, man, the most wonderful time of the year. At least it is, in my opinion. There's going to be more parties, more food, more get-togethers, more silliness, more laughing, more celebrations, presents, downtime, family time, all that amazing, amazing stuff. And I'm very qualified to speak on how to remain healthy because I have a lot of experience with this. I have messed it up time and time again, probably 35 years worth of mistakes and getting it wrong and completely letting things slide during the break. So I have become an authority figure in what not to do. And recently, probably over the last 5, 6, I'm starting to tell time worse as it goes forward, but I'm definitely much more confident and have had success with it in the past. So I'm more than happy to share what I found successful and what I have not. And today I'm going to be sharing with you 4 strategies that have worked for me really, really well and continue to work. And the pre-frame to this is there's no tactic around this. In the past, I've tried to, and I don't remember everything that I tried in the past, but I've always tried to find some kind of tactic or shortcut, to hack my way, through the holidays and somehow, stay healthy. Where the real issue it's just my mindset around the food, and real success started to happen when I genuinely started to value my health and what I was eating more than the pleasure of eating and having the treats, right? There would always be this sense of deprivation, like I really wanted this or I deserve this, and now that I'm denying myself something that I want or deserve, I'm depriving myself. And it took a long time, and it's still something that I'm struggling with from time to time. I actually don't think that it'll ever fully be gone. And that's okay. But is when I made that big mental flip, and it took a long time for it to happen, from actually liking what I was eating every single day and not depriving myself. That's when good things started to happen. So let me give you 4, that's the big principle, the big idea, but let me give you 4 concrete things that you can start to do right now, no matter where you are on the spectrum, and you can start to apply them into your life right now, with the caveat being that these work 100%, but they are long-term strategies. Excuse me, I'm just going to grab a drink of water, meaning that you'll have to practice them and they'll have to become part of who you are. So number 1 is planning. Sit down, grab your calendar, sit down with your partner, your wife, your husband, whoever you hang out with, whoever you're going to these parties to, and look at the calendar and write down when the parties are. Write down when, you do Christmas Eve dinner and whose house you're going to and what you plan on eating. And the reason that I want you to do this is because the clearer that you get on something, clarity creates certainty. And certainty makes it much easier for you to act consistently. Now, on the flip side of this, and I know you have numerous examples of this in your life because I have numerous examples of this in my life, is when I'm uncertain or I'm unclear, I'm anxious. And when I'm anxious, I'm much more likely to respond from old school programming of myself in the past than I am from this place of being the best person or being the person who I want to be or trying to achieve the goals that I say that I want to do. So again, the whole purpose of planning is to create certainty around what it is that you're going to eat, where it is that you're going to be, and create an executionable plan that'll help you get the results that you want. And again, this is totally up to you. I'm okay with you blowing the whole month of December if it means getting back in January, and especially if that's what you want to do, right? Like, understand it's not going to be good for you. You're going to feel miserable. Things are going to happen. But as long as you're clear with that, I'm clear with that too. I think that sounds like a great strategy for you. Right? The problem is when we say one thing and then we do another thing, and that creates that cognitive dissonance that just creates a lot of internal pain, and it's far from awesome being like that. So number one, make sure that you're writing things down. Number two, focus on the things that you actually can eat. In this case, particularly protein. So when I was really bad at this, and I'm doing the air quotations here, one of the strategies that I would try is this thing where if I was going to a party on Saturday night with my friends or with my wife, I would wake up and I'd be like, okay, well, I know that I'm going to be consuming a lot of less than optimal things tonight, so I'm just not going to eat today. I'm just not going to eat or drink. I'll just drink water, maybe have a coffee. And, by that time when I get there, I would have saved up these calories, again, air quotations, and then I'll be able to, to eat whatever I want when I get there. And of course, what this would lead to is a binge. And of course, when you're binging on a lot of carbohydrates and a lot of fats, you wake up very hungry the next day, and the likelihood of that behavior to continue, especially with the mindset that you have another party to be at in 2 or 3 days, is who cares? Let's go for breakfast, let's go get burgers, let's have a couple drinks, and away we go. But because the food that you're consuming is so rich in carbohydrates and rich in fat, you're poor in protein. So if you can focus on actually getting high quality lean protein into your body, like lean meat, like eggs, like egg whites, protein powder, anything that will help provide this nutrient of protein, it'll help keep you full. It'll make you much happier, right? You'll feel less deprived, and the likelihood of you completely derailing yourself when you get there is going to be less. And you'll feel much better about yourself. So number one is write things down. Number two is make sure you're focusing on the food that you can eat. Number three is to focus on all of the other health habits that you're doing. So there's a tendency, we don't like to be out of integrity. So if you're doing a lot of things for your health, you're seeing your corrective chiropractor, you're eating well, you're training, you're journaling, there's a tendency when there's rest and break and downtime, particularly when one or two of these things we're going to deem, and again, air quotations, not healthy, there's a tendency for the others to follow suit. So when you make it a priority to do all of those other things, you're going to be creating a situation where you're forcing yourself, you're kind of in between selves, I found when I was going through this. Right, I was in between the old self of, screw it, it's the holidays. And I was in between the new self of, no, wait a minute, this is my health, this is important, and I want to do it this way. I'm telling you this because the more behaviors you engage in that are health producing, the more likely you are to be able to choose those habits over and over and over again. It's going to be much more challenging for you to consistently, eat off track and do destructive habits when you're seeing your chiropractor a couple times a week for your corrective care, or you're hanging out with healthy people who run and who exercise and who do other healthy things. So making sure that you're doing those other habits that are not related to food and drinking is going to make it, again, you're going to be in a better environment. Your headspace is going to be much different because you're going to be around people who are making the choices that you want to be making. That is an excellent focus because, like I said, it's going to make choosing poor choices much harder. And the last one, when inevitably things fall apart, especially if they're new, is to give yourself some grace, right? So we'll save the think by design, because I try to break them down into eat, move, and think. We'll save the biggest think by design, like the widest principle, for the last one. And I was an expert at this. I was an expert at beating myself up, calling myself a failure, criticizing myself for being a procrastinator, for being weak, for lacking willpower, for just making, bad choices, for being such an idiot. And it's interesting, that belittlement and that tirade of horrible language and negative emotions to yourself, you would think, right, that would produce the opposite behavior, right? You would think that if you yelled at yourself, for being a moron and choosing, food A over food B, when obviously food B was so much healthier, you would think that would produce the opposite behavior. Now you're more likely to choose food B, and the exact opposite is true. When you're mean to yourself, when you're not kind to the language that's happening inside of your mind, you are much more likely to repeat the same negative behaviors over and over and over and over again. And what I'm not saying is, I'm not saying to fake reality. I'm not saying to celebrate the fact, like to throw yourself a party that you've made all these decisions that are less than optimal. But what I am saying is to maintain your self-worth, maintain the trust in yourself, and to have a real and honest conversation with yourself that you missed the mark, but that's okay. You have abilities and capabilities, and you can do this. I feel like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I feel like that guy from Saturday Night Live, if you're old enough to remember Stuart Smalley. But it's true, having that level of conversation with yourself, specifically when things are not going your way, you're making less than optimal decisions, and you're going to continue to make less optimal decisions. Maintaining that internal dialogue of honesty, of self-respect, and positivity are what's going to save you in the long run, right? Because if your self-esteem is suffering and you're doing a good job of wrecking your self-esteem, there is no possible way you are ever going to turn the ship around. And the behavior is going to continue on and on. And I promise you that. I promise you that because I've had and I still do sometimes, unfortunately, but I'm getting better, and I'm proud of myself for that. I have my PhD in negative self-talk for various reasons. Like I'm Eastern European. I grew up Catholic, and we perfected guilt. I don't know if you know that about good old Catholics, and just a variety of different things. So I promise you that much. If you don't have it right in your head and you're not talking to yourself with honesty and with respect, it's never going to be right. Okay? So to quickly recap the big picture that we're trying to create here philosophically is an actual understanding and desire to eat and act properly, right? Not this depriving myself philosophy. And the 4 strategies that I gave you on today's podcast are: 1, make sure you're planning. Number 2, make sure you're focusing on the food that you can eat, specifically protein. Number 3, make sure that you are engaging in all other health habits. And number 4, make sure that you are giving yourself some grace. Hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season. It's been Dr. Cray Show. Join the drive to 1 million families worldwide living life by design.